everybody. Well, it's time to start a new term, and I'm welcoming you to Art History 1A, Prehistoric to Medieval Art. I am Professor Deirdre Wills. I'll be your distance education or online class instructor. As a little background, I'll be referring to my notes from time to time. I've been teaching here at Pasadena City College for about 6 years. As far as my own background, I attended both a community college like PCC, I attended an art school, and then I transferred ultimately to a 4-year university right over at UC Riverside, where I completed my bachelor's degree and master's degree while doing a year of a study abroad program in Germany, which I can probably still remember a little bit of it. Professionally, I've worked for art museums, including the California Museum of Photography and the Getty here in Southern California, as well as arts institutions looking to keep the arts alive in our education system, in our policies, in state and local levels, and that was through the National Endowment for the Arts. To this day, museums are my place to chill out, almost on a Zen-like level. Maybe it's how organized they are, or how they make us focus and pay attention to interesting and sometimes surprising stuff that's displayed there. And of course, Southern California has incredible multi-million-dollar collections, even collections that are reflective of what we're going to study in this class. Anyway, museums, galleries, different cultural institutions are always my choice to both relax and get inspired. Even on a Friday night, if I head down to the Pasadena's own Norton Simon Museum in Old Town, which is free, by the way, on Friday nights, that's a great date destination as well. I like doing other stuff too. When I can get to a flea market, I love collecting old vinyl. Any 80s music fans out there like me? Well, those are usually a good place to go, as long as it's not too hot. All right, well, a little bit about this class. We'll begin, as I mentioned, back in this, what they call the Stone Age, or prehistoric times. And yes, I'm talking about back in the era of the caveman and cave art, and maybe some of those artists were women. We don't know, unfortunately, but I don't doubt it. And from there, which takes us all the way back some 30,000 years, we'll move forward in time to examine other areas, such as Mesopotamian art, Egyptian art. We'll look at the ancient Aegean, including the ancient Greeks. We'll look at the Roman Empire, the Etruscans, and then we'll move on into the era where we evolve beyond civilizations that are polytheistic, worshiping multiple gods and goddesses, to a monotheistic religion that comes on the scene, which I bet you can guess what that is. Yep, I'm talking about Christianity. So we'll be talking in the latter half, or actually the latter probably third of this class, about the impact of Christianity on art history as we enter into the Middle Ages, and then head into the medieval era to take a look at the impact of that widespread religion. All right, so why take art history? Well, the benefit of taking art history is more than just learning about a civilization, where it was located, and how it began. We're kind of moving beyond the mechanics. We're looking at the evidence of those cultures, their earliest expressions of art. What were they focusing on? What were they trying to communicate? What media did they have at their disposal that they had access to express whatever they wanted to express through their artworks? So that'll take us from prehistoric times, as I mentioned, all the way to the 14th century. in the Gothic world. So we are definitely going to be bridging both the BCE times, or before the Common Era times, to the Common Era, which we're now in, looking at over 30,000 years of art history. Wow, that's kind of mind-blowing. So art history, I think, is a great area of study because you'll learn to understand, evaluate, describe, and communicate about any kind of art piece or creative product. And I think those are skill sets that are increasingly important in our very visual 21st century world. I'm just not just talking about technology, but there's a real requirement to be able to comprehend and articulate concepts and products, whether for fun or business, and often that's to people you'll never meet in person, right? So communication is so important in learning about how to communicate and analyze, evaluate, describe any kind of visual product, any kind of creative output is a very valuable asset in today's world. All right, after completing this course, you should be able to better recognize and understand cultures and their values, religious influences, and how politics and social justice plays a role in art history. We'll even examine how women are represented by themselves and others through a bit of a feminist lens. So we're working women and the depiction of women in this class as well. Not only are you going to be able to leave this class and be able to recognize many works associated with these art historical eras and cultures that I'll introduce you to, but you'll recognize common themes throughout the millennia as well. You'll also understand a lot more about the techniques artists use, the power of symbolism in art, and the impact of those who hire these artists, as well as when it gets hard to tell what is real or true when art ventures into political propaganda. That's just something we have to juggle on a daily basis when we turn on the news, don't we? And then the impact of religion too. We're going to start to see how that can be expressed either very literally or it can become an abstract expression. And we'll see the pendulum swing in this class between incredibly naturalistic and then it'll swing towards abstraction or something that's more conceptual. So we'll talk about that and why that happens. That's very interesting as well. All right, how was art used by those in power? And when did artists break from cultural norms? So everybody loves a rebel, and we'll meet a few points in history where art kind of took off in a totally different direction in adventurous, creative ways. All right. So the first thing that you're going to do to get ready for this online meeting is hopefully you saw my early email to you. If not, open up Canvas, look in the orientation unit. That's where you need to spend your time on Monday and Tuesday for sure, reading things like my welcome letter and some of the orientation materials that you'll find there. If you're new to PCC or it's been a minute since you've taken classes here, make sure your Lancer Point and Canvas accounts are set up with current contact information and passwords, or whatever devices you'd prefer. Since this is an online class, it's very important to do this since all class communications, required discussions, and assignments and exams will be taught and evaluated through Canvas. This is our vehicle to connect with one another and each other. The welcome letter will also give you further information about accessing the course and when our online course begins, which is coming up really soon here on Monday, and your course check-in requirements, and there are 2 of those. So look for those 2 check-in requirements if you want to make sure you don't lose your seat in the class, because there is a waiting list, and if you don't check in, you're out. I know you're So let me know you're attending by doing the 2 check-in requirements, and then check out all the other valuable resources and links, especially regarding accessibility. If some of you have issues in that regard, be sure to address them early, and more information about online learning and my contact information. So if this is your first online class, get ready. I hope to get you very enthused about taking more, and looks like we're going to be doing that for a while, since this is a fantastic way to make progress toward your degree from the comfort of your home, office, Starbucks, wherever you like to work. Expect lots of great content and visuals, as well as many links to the increasingly rich world of educational documentaries, tours, etc. Whatever I can connect you with to make this more interesting, I will do it. And that will, of course, allow you to enter that art history time machine and go back in time to these wonderful cultures and civilizations and eras. All right, so once you're in our Canvas portal, you'll see a tab that will require you to take a syllabus quiz, as well as participate in a discussion session. These will familiarize yourself with some of the repeated methods by which I gauge your participation and assess your skill sets, but it's also part of your check-in requirements. So look for those in your orientation unit on Canvas. So I'm looking forward to meeting you. Eventually, at least we'll do that through Canvas, to our discussion group. It's an icebreaker, so no studying required. You can jump right in. But do a little bit of the review of the orientation materials so that you can take the syllabus quiz, and then we'll get into our art history time machine. All right, welcome aboard. For those of you who are worried about scheduling and showing up at specific times, this is a self-led class. Review the syllabus. The only thing you have to show up specifically to are turning in certain assignments on deadline. And then the exams have very specific days. I will occasionally schedule a Zoom office hour that might be fixed, but I'm going to probably vary it for those of you who are working. And of course, you can reach out to me by appointment. All right, nice to have you on board to Art History 1A.